Terence Crawford defends decision to walk away from Errol Spence Jr. fight, calls AVANESYAN King Kong. Alright, y'all, it's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. So, Terence Bud Crawford waits until fight week 3 days before his fight in Omaha, Nebraska versus David Avanesyan, whatever you choose to call him this morning. But he just now deciding to actually talk about the fight for some reason. I don't know why he wants to promote it 3 days before the fight. But he came out with a few things to say regarding Errol Spence Jr., why he actually felt like walking away from the negotiation process was his best option, and why he feels like fighting David Avanesyan is like fighting King Kong. Can't overlook David Avanesyan. He's on a great winning streak is what Terence Crawford had to say, and he's one of his toughest opponents yet. These were Terence Crawford's own words. Now let's get into it. So Errol Spence Jr., why did he feel like walking away from Errol Spence Jr. was his best option? Well, to be honest, he's still going with the narrative that Al Haymon and PBC were trying to F him out of some money. And it's funny because Terence Crawford's own words were that he decided to agree to all their demands. He said basically that he was offered something, he gave a counter offer, and what they came back with was the same thing basically that they sent him the first time. And he accepted all those terms. He accepted to take the lesser of the purse, he accepted to take no guarantee, and he basically accepted all the B-side terms when it comes to making the fight. But yet, he didn't sign the contract. I don't understand how you could accept all terms of a contract, but yet somehow you didn't sign the contract. And how could you accept not only all terms of the contract and not sign it, but to his own words, he said that he accepted all terms. He wanted transparency to where all his money was coming from to make sure he was going to get paid every cent, which absolutely makes no sense. If you agree to something, you should already know where the money is going to come from, or you should have already had your lawyers look into where the money is going to come from. That way, there are no question marks going into the fight. But Terence Crawford seems to be the king of excuses when it comes to the Errol Spence Jr. fight. At this point, it's almost like, dude, just say that there were things within the contract that you didn't agree with and you walked away. Stop saying that you agreed to this fight and that you were ready to sign off on the fight, but the only reason why you didn't is because they wouldn't show you all the paperwork. It makes no sense because, number one, there's no way for Terence Crawford to see where every dollar is going to come from until the actual fight happens, because you're getting paid off of back-end money, which means you have to have people actually come, purchase things, purchase the fight, show up to the venue, buy popcorn, take pictures, all that stuff before you actually know where every dollar is going to be coming from. It's impossible to give those type of numbers up front, really. They can give you a ballpark figure, and that's probably what Al Haymon did, is he probably said, well, this is the number we can guarantee you. This is the number that is possibly going to be generated off of this fight. Now, the number that's possibly going to be generated off of that fight, you guys get to split that. That's your back end money. That's how you guys are going to make your bulk of your money. And I think Terence Crawford had a problem with not knowing exactly where all of that money is going to come from. But in the mind of anybody who negotiates those type of contracts will already tell you that there's no way of placing a full dollar amount on an event that hasn't happened yet. You actually have to have the event play out, and then you can figure out where the dollar amounts actually came from. So, in my mind, never was Terence Crawford going to fight Errol Spence Jr. Never was he going to sign off on that fight. It had absolutely nothing to do with money. It had absolutely nothing to do with transparency. It had to do with the fact that Terence Crawford just doesn't challenge himself, and this is something he's been doing his whole career. It's something other people have tried to expose. It's something boxing fans who like Crawford don't want to accept. The real fans of the sport, they don't even have to be Errol Spence fans, but they can see straight through everything that Terence Crawford is saying and is doing. And this guy had the nerve to call David Avanesyan King Kong. He said this guy is a good fighter because he's on a good winning streak. You know, it's funny because Adrian Broner's on the winning streak himself. Adrian Broner's on a pretty good winning streak. I'll just play it. But when you talk about guys like David Avanesyan as if there are the toughest fights out there for you, when you know in your heart of hearts that Boots Ennis is standing out there, Virgil Ortiz is standing out there. You could have took a fight with Keith Thurman. You could have taken a fight with Errol Spence Jr. You could have taken a fight with Stanionis. You could have taken... I mean, there's so many names, it's almost laughable for you to try to compare a guy like David Avanesyan to one of those other names and to pretend like there were no tough fights that were available. The funny thing is, every last one of those fighters that I just named, none of them had a fight up until the point where the David Avanesyan fight was actually announced. Not Boots Ennis didn't have anything lined up at the moment. Virgil Ortiz, yes, was in talks for something, but it hadn't been signed off on. Errol Spence Jr. hadn't signed the fight. Keith Thurman hadn't signed the fight. Stanionis, yes, was in talks to have a match made, but he could have went after Stanionis as well. I mean, there's so many names that he could have went after, and there are lesser known names like Rashad Ellis, you know, other people that are out there that he could have actually went after, but decided to go after David Avanesyan. For you to say that this guy's like King Kong, but you refuse to talk about or promote the fight until the week of the fight, should say it all. It's almost pathetic at this point when you talk about the actions of Terence Crawford, and his career will definitely take a hit from all this. His career will not be the same. He could probably still fight Errol Spence Jr., but I don't think it's going to have the same effect now. I don't think he can do anywhere near those Mayweather numbers now, and it's all based off the fact that Terence Crawford is refusing to challenge himself, and he's making them all look really, really silly as fighters. It's your boy Cardinal Red. Hit that like button for me, share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and more than likely get a response on the tube. Holler at me over there. And we are mad.
He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. Feel niggas hate local music, but yet and still I promote the music. A hard-headed nigga couldn't coach me through shit. I thought they wouldn't hate, my approach is too sick. Motion music, promote the movement. They play it in the crowd and they both is moving. The chicks and G's bumping their head instantly. It never made no sense to me how a nigga gotta leave the Ville just to receive a deal. I need the bills, so if I gotta leave I will. But I'd rather stay, let them see the skills. Shoot a video, let them see the bill. Do a couple scenes on 18th and Hill. Now open up wide, let them see your grill. That boy Keith is for real, but he's local.